Hello guys, and welcome to a new Steel Division video today by me, Vulcan. Today I have for you a Włochaty versus a player in the final of the second community patch tournament. Due to this being a Swiss style tournament, both of these players going undefeated. They are the highest point scoring players at this moment, and therefore are going up against each other to determine who will be the overall victor of the tournament. So that's where we've come down to. The map today is Odon, and on the Allied side, Włochaty is using the 6th Airborne, and on the Axis side, player has chosen the 352nd. Now both of these divisions have changed an awful lot, with lots of changes in the Community Balance mod. We are playing on the Community Balance mod here, so make sure to check out the link in the description for all of the changes. Let's talk about what has changed. So with the 6th Airborne, they have removed the air landing and assault pioneers, or at least one pack of them in phase B, to make the division a lot less reliant on those. However, the 6th Airborne now has way more airborne units, so extra availability on Bren Group, the airborne leader, the airborne paras, and the airborne vicars. So we will see Włochaty likely rely on those quite a bit with his infantry playstyle. Then we see the phase A Polstons have been increased in availability in phase A, and they've also been decreased in price, which gives the 6th Airborne a little bit more AA to work with early on and can support some of their Typhoon bombers and Tempests. Then we see an increase to availability on the Staghounds. They've also had increase in veterancy on the Typhoon AT in phase C, which allows them to deal with some heavier targets later on. And then there's been some adjustment to the air landing in phase C, whereby they can get a card of 8 of them now with the extra veterancy. There's also been a set of H1 howitzers added in phase C, which is 4 of them. Can give them quite a lot of artillery to work with in the late game. However, I'm not sure how likely we'll see that used in this game. One thing that we might see used though is the extra Mosquito Pathfinders. You can now get 2 more of them on the division, and they are available in phase B in 1 pack. So look out for more of those to deal with things like 88s, AT guns, and just pushing infantry out of buildings and so on. Or maybe even just cutting off the main road reinforcements. So that's the majority of the changes for the 6th Airborne. Of course, make sure to check out the link in the description if you would like to see them all. In terms of the 352nd, there has been changes to the SBW 204 availability, and that also includes the CMD variant with the extra AP gun. The MG42s have been increased in availability from 3 to 4 per pack, so we might see some more 800 meter range engagements than we're used to, because those may be relied on a little bit more. There has been an increase to the Pack 43 veterancy in phase C from 1 to 2 star. That gives them now a 3-star Pack 43 to work with command that can be very deadly to enemy armor. Up against 6th Airborne though, unlikely to see that used very much. They've increased the veterancy of the FK-18, which is an artillery unit in phase B, from 0 veterancy to 1 star, and that will again potentially allow them to be 2-star and quite effective artillery. One thing that is going to make a definite difference though is the introduction of the 81mm mortars in phase A. We've seen them used already throughout this tournament. They weren't there previously, and there was like a little bit of a gap between the longer range artillery that you really wanted to bring in and then like super short range artillery like the 40mm mortars. So that 81mm mortar set kind of gives you something to fill that gap. We also see a phase B Pack 40 added in phase B, and that's now an extra AT gun that they will have available if needed. And there have been a bunch of other changes as well, including the increase of veterancy to the Panzer IIIs. So in general, buffs across the board for both of these divisions, and we'll have to see how they go up against each other in this one. So let's have a look at some of the units anyway. On the top side we see Airborne Leader. There's going to be a mortar there, the 3-inch mortar. We've got an AT gun. There's going to be a couple units of infantry, a few units of infantry actually, accompanied by a Command Tetrarch and a Tetrarch CS. So a big push on the top side for włochaty. Into the town there's going to be some Ox and Bucks, Airborne Paras for the centre town, with Airborne Leader further down to provide that veterancy, and a single unit of infantry on the bottom side to just hold the line there. Over on the side of player, we see that the Grenadiers have been unloaded. They're trying to snipe the 6-pounder before they get pinned down. Do get pinned down and surrendered though, no command nearby. Double Stoss Troop has been moved into these trees, and Fusiliers are now trying to move up to help pin down the Airborne Paras here. IG-18 also unloaded, will definitely do quite a bit of damage. The Tetrarch CS though will have to try and deal with that sooner than later, and does do plenty of damage. Vickers coming in there to help pin that down. Panzer III is on the way to support that top side and will definitely be needed to take care of the Tetrarch. Meanwhile elsewhere, just a spread of Grenadiers and Stoss Troop for player, and the 120mm mortar, which will be looking to pin any infantry that the Stoss Troop come up against. So, big push here for włochaty. Going to be running straight into the Befehlspanzer though, and that finds the internal fragments onto the Tetrarch. That Tetrarch will not be long for this world as it does get taken out. Panzer III now going to be able to continue to move up towards these Airborne Paras and the Tetrarch CS here. włochaty is going to try and get those into cover, I think, though, sooner than later, avoiding them running into the Panzer III, because the Panzer III's machine guns can definitely do a lot of damage to the Airborne Paras if allowed to do so. Stoss Troop already in a defensive position here will wreck that Airborne Para squad. Look at the damage there. That's 10 men just gone in an instant. That is 2-star Stoss Troop working out very nicely indeed. They will be 3-star once the Panzer III gets into range. Tetrarch CS here also going to go down to the Panzer III, and that extra little bit of veterancy on the Panzer III certainly helping out quite a bit. Another unit of Airborne Paras get chunked, and włochaty really can't afford to keep allowing these Airborne Paras to die like that, because over time the Airborne Paras do tend to run out of availability, and then you have to start relying on subpar squads like the air landing. So he wants to try and preserve these airborne units as much as possible and get decent cost efficiency out of them. Now of course with the community balance mod you do get more of them overall, but it still doesn't mean that you can throw them away. On the bottom side, Ox and Bucks, they are under fire from the Grenadiers here, have taken quite a significant amount of damage. Looks like there was an exchange between the Stoss Troop and the Ox and Bucks as the Ox and Bucks tried to make ground, and now the Ox and Bucks, having fell back, coming under fire from the Kar-98s and MG-34. 3-inch mortar trying to pin down some of these Stoss Troop to allow the Ox and Bucks and Airborne Paras to move up. But now we see here the Fusiliers joined by the Panzer III, machine guns on target to these Airborne Paras, and they could be going down, just falling back in time. The HE on the main gun of the Panzer III has actually been turned off, so it's not providing as much firepower as it otherwise could be, which is quite interesting. Machine guns though, still doing quite a bit of damage and definitely have that pinning effect onto the Ox and Bucks, so forcing them back for now. Counter battery from the 81mm mortar now from player onto the 3-inch mortar of włochaty. Looks like that did find the shot onto the 6-pounder as well while it was at it, which will open up more ground for the Panzer IIIs to exploit, as well as the Panzerjäger 35. The Panzerjäger 35, the only thing that can really counter that right now is an AT gun, since the Tetrarchs are just not really up to par. We can see one of the SPW 204s being brought in. There is just more of these available in general, I believe. So can be used as an armoured vehicle that can help pin down enemy forces. Stoss Troop engaging Airborne Paras. The Stoss Troop, although they will do a lot of damage, won't win that engagement over time, just quite simply due to the amount of men in an Airborne Para squad. Stoss Troop do jump forwards briefly, reveal the Ox and Bucks, jump back into their house, continue the engagement. SPW 204 looking to help engage with the machine gun, but instead going for the shot onto the Airborne Leader, which is forced to unload early. now going to be running to try and give the extra veterancy to the Ox and Bucks and avoid them being surrendered. Pretty important that that is the case, because otherwise the Starship Troop will open up this ground and be able to embed themselves in this building, which will be difficult for włochaty to dislodge. So we now see the extra units coming up here, some command for player as well, so the same fate doesn't befall him. The Starship Troop, they will do a lot of damage to the Ox and Bucks, but can the Airborne Paras and Airborne Leader kill off the Starship Troop in time? Not sure they will. The Starship Troop will likely end up hidden. Yes, indeed. Into the town. The Airborne Paras do actually kill off the unit of infantry before they unload, and it looks like the Grenfjord is going to go down as well. Massive misplay there from player, loses 2 units of infantry just as these flamethrower squads are coming through. Airborne Leader is going to unload in range of the SBW-204 as well, and that's going to cause a bailout. So really, really nice play here from włochaty, allowing these flamethrower squads to make so much ground. This one's just zooming towards the 120mm mortar right now, and there is nothing that player can do to stop this flamethrower from finding the kill there. That's going to be a hell of a lot of value coming out of that flamethrower squad. After the 120mm mortar goes down, he's going to hope to either capture the Opel Blitz or just blow it up. Looks like he has managed to capture it. Me-109G0 forced to be bought in order to take out the flamethrower squad, but not successful in doing so. Me-109 now pushing onto the Airborne Paras and trying to pin those down as they engage the Grenadiers. Starship Troop still in a quite awkward position here because these low health squads can still die to the Starship Troop quite easily if engaged. Airborne Paras though finding that surrender on the bottom side. Starship Troop and Grenadiers are going to be moving up to prevent the push of the Airborne Paras, but have now been surrounded due to the movement of these units in the centre. Opel Blitz tried to get back to friendly territory but not quite making it, and now we see a 6-pounder coming in to engage the Panzer III, Panzerjäger and the other Panzer III here. Smoke from the flamethrower is going to cover the 6-pounder after it does get one of the Panzer IIIs. So really nice play here from włochaty. We've got a lot of action going on as player loses another unit of infantry before it unloads. IG-18, not really much it can do about the Bren gun here opening up onto itself, because what the Paras can do is kind of just jump out and back in again every time the IG is going to fire. But it depends if włochaty wants to pay attention and do that, because he will have to focus elsewhere on this map. Fusiliers are making some ground on the top side with the Grenadiers and the IG-18. There's not actually much sort of defending that very top side. A lot of włochaty's push has gone towards the centre now, as he made quite a bit of ground. The Airborne Paras though are going to be able to get into cover, no longer fired on by the IG-18, and the Me-109 has run out of ammunition and fuel, will be leaving for now. So włochaty has found himself a very strong position in the middle of this map. 6-pounder takes out the Panzer III, will now be pushing to try and find the shot onto the Panzerjäger as player scrambles to get that out of line of sight. It's going to be very difficult for him to do so though, and the 6-pounder moving all the way out as far as it can go. Oh, nice smoke there from player, covers off his Panzerjäger just in time, will allow that to get into a better position on the top side in order to assist the push of the Grenadiers and the IG-18. So a good idea here for player at the moment is probably to just try and focus on this salient on the top side, or maybe just try and break back some of this area in the middle, which was only held by the Airborne Paras, and we can see that the Airborne Paras were surrendered there as the IG-18 helped pin those down. Starship Troop moving up to try and take these buildings back. Another IG-18 on the bottom side should assist these Panzer Grenadiers in dealing with the Bren Group. A Bren Group, they do look kind of good on paper with their extra veterancy, but if you look deeper into their numbers, their long range capability is not that great, and neither is their short range. They're a very mediocre squad. So versus a Grenadier and IG-18 at range, the Bren Group really aren't going to do too much. The good thing about Bren Group is they just provide you the extra numbers that can support things like the Airborne Paras. And Bren guns can actually be quite lethal in that they kill their opposing units rather than pin them down. So Ox and Bucks have been purchased on the top side to deal with that Fusilier squad that decided to push forwards. Panzerjäger trying to kill off as many units in the forest here as possible, and we do see that the command did die. Now the airborne sniper going to have to run back, as that is also under threat. Airborne Paras coming into the tree line here, not in range to deal with the Panzerjäger. Will have to be careful with their continued engagement. Willie's MMG helping out with the pinning of the Fusiliers, which is nice if he keeps it out of the 400 meter range, since the Jeep will have the range advantage over the MG of the Fusiliers. Polston going to be trying to do as much damage as possible to the Grenadiers on the bottom side at the moment as the Airborne Paras continue that engagement. IG-18 has taken a little bit of fire, but not too much. That Bren group were forced to move out of those buildings eventually. So now we see a train of Panzer 35s coming in from Player, looking to use those tanks as close support to deal with a lot of this infantry on the bottom side, but this 6-pounder has been absolutely crucial in this game so far in taking out a lot of the armour that Player has presented. ME-109 G0 coming in for the strafing run onto this infantry. Tetrarch CS, though, making moves, is going to find shots onto the Opel Blitz here. But here comes the Panzerjäger to save the day, using a very interesting line of sight there, the Panzerjäger, in order to take on the Tetrarch CS, just covered enough by the smoke to stop this 6-pounder from being a threat. Meanwhile, on this bottom side, double Panzer 35 now moving up after the original Panzer 35 on the main road did get taken out. The Tetrarch CS is eventually going to go down to the Panzerjäger, but we'll have to be careful as it continues past this tree line, as there are plenty of units here that can utilise the 100 meter range AT. IG-18 does take out the Jeep on the top side, but the Ox and Bucks did deal with the Fusiliers, so that has prevented a little bit of a push there from Player for now. The Players definitely trying to push on the bottom side here, but Włochaty is going to respond with a Staghound, and the Staghound has enough armor that can prevent the Panzer 35s from really being a threat, whilst also having the AP value to take those out. So those Panzer 35s could be in trouble unless it's IG-18 works miracles and blows up the Staghound with a HE shot, which is possible, but might take a little while. We can see the 81mm mortar now coming down towards where this Polston is. I think it was originally targeting the 6-pounder, but the Polston also in the same area, so it is going to come under fire. Airborne Paras advancing under smoke thanks to the flamethrower squad do manage to take out the Stoss troop squad that was unloaded. Player going to be investing in another Stoss troop squad to fight these Airborne Paras, but as the Airborne Paras move forwards and engage the Stoss troop aren't in a building. Player's going to lose those if he's not careful. He moves them into a building, they get ambushed by the Airborne Paras, there's nothing that Stoss troop squad can do, they're going to go down, and both of Włochaty's squads survive. Really nice infantry micro there again from Włochaty. Unfortunately for Player, just couldn't make that work, just simply outnumbered in that position, and would have needed at least 2 Stoss troop squads if you wanted to stand a fighting chance. But nice job with the Panzer 35 to surrender the Airborne Paras there in the open and do plenty of damage in the process. Takes out the other squad, but we do see a unit go down. I think before it unloaded, maybe that was some command. Tetrarch CS absolutely beating on these ersatz troop, and that Player is deciding to rely upon. And one big problem with the ersatz is they just don't quite have the same quality as airborne units, right? So in any infantry engagement, the ersatz are going to be on the back foot. So that means that Player is going to have to rely quite heavily on the IG-18s and the Panzer 35s in order to make ground. But since there is a Staghound on this bottom side, that may not remain the case, and there's also the Cromwell 7 now in the centre, or 6, sorry, in the centre, that will be able to damage a lot of these fire support weapons like the IG-18. So although Player has done a good job to recover so far, his front line is actually pretty damn weak. We can see that it's very thin across the board, whereas the amount of units that Włochaty has pressing right now is a lot in comparison. So 6-pounder unloads, does kill the Panzer 35 on the top side. All of this infantry very exposed now to the Tetrarch CS as it continues to fire those 9 HE rounds. The Bren group and Oxen Bucks also opening up with their Bren guns at range, but probably better off just charging down these men and looking for the surrenders as opposed to continuing that ranged engagement while they are pinned, because the infantry, when they are pinned, get a little bit of a defensive bonus, but looks like the Tetrarch CS just going to be doing the job itself by zooming up like so. Panzerjäger going to be going for the shot onto the Tetrarch CS, not successful in doing so, but the Staghound now coming up to replace it in an engagement against this Panzerjäger. Might end up finding the kill, really does depend on whether or not the Panzerjäger reveals itself. But here comes the Pak 40, 2-star Pak 40, unloading on the railway. That's going to do a lot of damage to the Staghound and Tetrarch CS, probably cleaning up both of those vehicles, and then we'll continue to be able to do damage with the HE. But there's going to be needed some infantry here soon, as the Oxen Bucks do end up surrendering the Panzerjäger and are now putting pressure onto the 81mm mortar. 81mm mortar mounts up into the Opel Blitz, as the Opel Blitz now does a runner. Very, very smart play there from player. I like that a lot. Not many players would actually think about actually doing that. But the Oxen Bucks may still get into range with the Piat to find the kill, and that will be an Opel Blitz and the 81mm mortar going down. But the Opel Blitz does manage to get onto the Vast Move command on the railway and get out of dodge. So unfortunately the Oxen Bucks not finding that kill, but really good play by player there to get the mortar out of harm's way. Does still need that infantry though to take back this building complex from Włochaty. So IG still providing ample cover here for the Ersatztruppen, although the Ersatztruppen very low on numbers now, but that's going to be a surrendered unit as the command does go down. Cromwell 6 replies with a kill onto the Ersatztruppen, but not quite the same value. These IG-18s have definitely caused quite a bit of damage throughout the game so far, and I would almost argue that they are the only reason that player has remained in the games thus far, because anywhere where there has been like infantry engagements, these IGs have swung it in players' favour. The Staghound taking a lot of hits from the IGs right now though, and that could end up going down. The Marder 2 coming in there with the shot to finish the job. So Oxen Bucks are going to be hit by the mortar that escaped them, and now we see the Ersatztruppen approaching to take back those buildings. Fusilier is going to be engaging them in the open as the Pak 40 continues to use its HE on infantry. So I think there's still a decent chance here for player to get back in this game, as the 6th Airborne, even with the changes, I think still falls off pretty heavily in Phase C. And there's only 1 minute now until Phase C. And the 6th Airborne can always focus on bringing in plenty of challenges or something, but at this point it might just be damage control for Włochaty, in the sense that he is almost 1,000 points ahead, and the main sort of thing will be whether or not he can hold on to that lead for the rest of the game. We can now see the 381mm off map being bought. That will do a lot of damage to any infantry that is in this circle. But with the Bren group being pressured, it may only leave a couple of units here that will be affected by this 381mm off map. And this off map, it costs 180 points, so you want to be hitting, you know, more than just a few infantry squads with it. Killing something like the Pak 40 would definitely be a lovely target to hit. The Pioneers though continuing to make ground. That off map does hit the mark, takes out the brand new command infantry that were brought in, and the Pioneer squad goes down. So successful artillery strike does clean up all of the infantry in that area, but there are certainly some better targets to be hit soon enough, as an 88 is brought in and the off map has found its way into range to drop onto the Pak 40. If this 88 ends up unloading where this off-map is, then this off-map could pay itself off twice over. 81mm mortar continuing to fire away towards the centre. Just wanted to get rid of, I guess, potentially the AT gun that was here if it was still there. Panzer 35 being cheeky and pushing up with the Pioneers and Grenadiers. Looks like the double IG on this bottom side has opened up some ground down here against the infantry of Włochaty. So there comes the off map. It does kill the Pak 40, so successful strike. The 88 did not unload where the off map came down, so that's going to survive to fight another day. But if Włochaty does get sight onto that 88, it could be toast very shortly. And that will have made the 381mm off-map completely worth it. And it looks like he does have line of sight, and the 88 will be targeted. Nice job by the Marder 2 there to clean up that Staghound. It allows the Panzer 35 to continue its infantry fire support against the Ox and Bucks. So the Pioneers will eventually be able to run onto that building, which is why player is not allowing them to fall back just yet. And it seems as though player is carving his way into this bottom side and has actually managed to negate the +1 that Włochaty had. So Włochaty's early game and mid game dominance now may not be a thing anymore as we move on to the late game. But there is going to go the 88. I was a little bit concerned that that would survive on 1 health. That would have been unfortunate for Włochaty, but he does get the kill. Now we see player come in with the Focke-Wulf 190. It's going to be engaged by the 2-star Typhoon bomber. The Typhoon not able to pin the Focke-Wulf 190, but as the Focke-Wulf comes back over the AA, it will be forced to fall back. This ME-109G0 will want to fly over the AA. Actually just going to drop the bombs onto the Grenadier. It's not going to quite hit the mark, and then the ME-109G0 does have enough time to kill the Typhoon. So nice job by player there to get the ME-109 into position to find that kill. We do see a lone infantry squad that's bugged into the corner of the map. But yeah, the ME-109, great job shooting down that Typhoon. That Typhoon bomber can be extremely obnoxious, like the 2-star bombers, especially against things like Marder 2s. So player removing that from the equation certainly opens up a lot more options to use things like these Marder 2s as the game progresses. And the Marder 2 are going to be looking for another kill onto the Staghound here. That will continue to open up the options for the Panzer 35. Because those Staghounds, they're a great choice for stopping the light armour. But when it comes to a Marder 2 with 2-star veterancy, they just lack the range to really be able to counter those. At close range, the Staghound could probably deal with the Marder quite well. But at longer ranges, the Marder certainly has the advantage. Now we see a 2-star Mobilwagen brought into this top side. Player can use that as both infantry fire support and anti-air if he wishes to do so. But he doesn't really have much here to support right now. There's a severe lack of infantry on the top side, and it seems as though Włochaty, early on, he lost a lot of his units unnecessarily, in my opinion. Or maybe not unnecessarily, just unluckily. But it seems as though into the mid-game, he has certainly cracked down on his infantry preservation and tried to keep his infantry alive as best as he can. The Mobilwagen not helping though, managing to get the kill onto that infantry squad. Pioneers just waiting to lob a grenade into the face of the Bren group here and find themselves a quick kill. So they managed to get the grenade off. Bren group do find the kill, but the Bren group will die in response. ME-109G0 picks off the flamethrower squad. Just a quick snipe there from the ME-109, as it does get hit pretty hard by the Polston. Ox and Bucks here going to be hit by the Mobilwagen very hard as the Grenadiers come up to support that. And it does look like player is intending to use this Mobilwagen in a fire support role. Pioneers and Ersatz continuing to try and push across the open now, but the IG has got into position, so these Bren group are going to take a lot of damage from that for sure, and will be pinned down shortly. Marder not quite in position to stop that Staghound from firing onto this bottom side. but does still cover the Panzer 35 as it advances, because as soon as this Staghound moves up and comes round this tree line, the Marder 2 is on target, and we'll see that certainly fall in favour of player. Tempest now sick of the antics of the Focke-Wulf 190, włochaty investing in that to try and take that down, but of course the Mobilwagen, 2-star Mobilwagen, very effective against aircraft, pins them down very quickly. There's also a Mobilwagen on the bottom side now that is going to be helping pin the Bren group and force them back. So Panzer 35 almost gets a shot towards this 17-pounder. The 17-pounder actually really good cover for the Staghound. If the 17-pounder can clean up the Panzer 35 and the Marder 2, it allows a lot of room for the Staghound to then start supporting infantry on a pushback on this bottom side. 17-pounder missing its shots due to its lack of veterancy. Marder 2, is it going to fall out of line of sight? It is. But the Panzer 35 still in line of sight, so we'll need to be careful. M1 howitzer brought in. That's going to be hitting the IG-18 now. And it looks like włochaty does have the M1 howitzers on his division. I'm not sure if they are the Phase C ones or the ones you can get earlier on. But either way, interesting to see those used in the late game to try and control some of these weapons, these fire support weapons. Tetrarch CS going to be able to take shots at the IG-18 here as it's moved forwards very aggressively. Can't help but feel that's a bit of a mistake there from player. No real reason to push it forwards like that when you don't even have the infantry ahead of it. Oh, the Mobilwagen is going to go down. Looks like the 17-pounder. It didn't kill the Marder 2 or the Panzer 35, but it did kill the Mobilwagen, and that is quite a big deal as it does open up air opportunities for włochaty on the bottom side of the map. But włochaty is managing to maintain this salient in the mid and continue to give himself a +1. So although it looks like player is starting to make some progress on the bottom and top side, he's still at a disadvantage overall in terms of territory. Grenadiers trying to engage the Oxenbucks close up. Not really going to work out too well for them since the Oxenbucks have the 8 HE versus the Grenadiers 5 HE. These Grenadiers though might be able to survive a little bit better against the Airborne Bren group with their 6 HE versus 5 HE. The Marder 2, that does find a kill onto a 17-pounder in the mid. Not sure what the cause of that was, since that's not something you'd usually see happen, but it may be the 17-pounder wasn't unloaded in time. It got panicked as it unloaded, and then the Marder 2 just proceeded to clean it up with its accurate shots. The Cromwell in the mid still providing plenty of cover. I feel like player is going to need to find a way to get rid of this Cromwell. And we could of course bring in the Pack 43, the high veterancy Pack 43 that I was talking about at the start of the game, or we can just bring in another Marder. The trouble with using Marders against a Cromwell 6 is that the Cromwell 6 can pin down Marders very quickly with its HE due to the low armor of the Marders. But here comes the Staghound. Staghound's pushing on the bottom side. Marder is going to be able to get a shot off though, and the Staghound goes down. So even though the 17-pounder here was doing work, it still hasn't cleaned up the Panzer 35 and the Marder 2, so the Staghound is going to die to that. Tempest has come in for the engagement on the bottom side, but versus 2 planes, it looks like the Tempest may go down unless he can save himself with the use of the Poleston. He tried to fly over the Poleston best he could, but the Tempest is going to go down regardless. ME-109G0 is forced to fall back. Tempest also going to be forced to fall back though by the Mobilwagen, and since the Focke-Wulf 190 has 2-star veterancy, it can kind of brush off the Poleston fire and continue for the second kill onto the Tempest there. So really nice air engagement from player. Is going to bite back at włochaty in the late game here. So what we did kind of miss was that there was a Panzerschreck squad that was mixed in here, and it did a lot of damage to the 17-pounder. So that 17-pounder definitely not as much of a threat as it was, although, well, if the way things one health AT guns go, then, you know, this 17-pounder is going to be killing this Marder very soon. But the Ersatztruppen They're going to continue to engage the Bren group. Marder 2 has been brought up to try and engage the Cromwell. It looks like Włochaty's just backing off from that. I'm a little bit worried about players Focke-Wulf 190 over here. If another aircraft is brought in, it could easily ambush it, and it looks like that is going to happen. Włochaty going to take advantage of that best he can, and currently players in a pretty tough position. He could maybe have gone to fly over the Mobilwagons up on the top side. That might have saved him a little bit. But this way, it looks like the Focke-Wulf is just going to go down to the Tempest as soon as the Tempest can get on its tail. Assuming the Tempest wants to get on its tail. It's having trouble doing so. But there we go, Focke-Wulf goes down. And Włochaty finds the kill. So nice air ambush there from the Tempest, but can't help but feel like that was a little bit of player's mistake, as there was double Mobilwagen on the top side that certainly could have helped save that Focke-Wulf from going down. Marder going to be engaging the Polston here, as it does show itself through that tree line. Lucky to not really just be a one-shot kill there onto that Polston, because the tanks do have extra damage bonus against AA units. So I don't think that quite hit the mark. Fusiliers under pressure from the M1 howitzer there, but players really struggling to make ground regardless. All of these little bits of infantry that Włochaty has been pushing forwards have been keeping him in the game with these like tiny salients, and that must be really, really frustrating for player to deal with, because there's no real way for him to do so. He could maybe buy in something like a Nebelwerfer if he has it on his division and kind of just hit these areas pretty hard and then try and surrender the units that are there. But it seems as though he's not going to be trying to do that. We now see an artillery unit brought in. This is the 3,000 meter range artillery. I think it's like the SK-18. Surprised to see that actually purchased, but Typhoon AT, 2-star Typhoon AT coming in with the rockets onto the Mobilwagen, trying to get a kill there. Both of these Me-109 G0s going for the hunt, but not going to find the kill onto the Typhoon. Typhoon's way too fast. But with the Mobilwagen being pinned down, well, the Williams MMG can push onto that very hard indeed. And the air landing, they do actually find a kill onto the second Mobilwagen. So both of these Mobilwagens neutralized for the time being will open up the skies once again for Włochaty. And we may see some bombers come out that can really swing the tide of these ground engagements. Oh wow, the Marder's gone down in the centre as well. And just like that, so many units dying. The 17-pounder found the kill onto that one, and player with that is going to surrender. The double Mobilwagen, Marder 2 going down so damn quickly, and after 33 minutes and 6 seconds, Włochaty is victorious and is going to be crowned the champion of the second community patch tournament. So an exciting game from start to finish. I was wondering if I was ever going to run out of breath. And we can see that that certainly shows in the kills and losses. 2,565 kills to 2,575 losses. It doesn't get much closer than that. But the overall game fell well in favour of Włochaty due to his early to mid-game plays. He certainly had a lot more on the field and managed to dismantle a lot of the units that player was relying on. Especially with those Tetrarch CSs, they did quite a decent job. And he did manage to make his off-map pay as well, which certainly helped him transition into Phase C. So let's have a look at some of these kills. Oxenbucks, they took out Grenadier and the Panzerjäger. That pays themselves off quite a lot. These airborne paras taking out Stosstroop, Grenfjorder and Pioneers is always nice. This 6-pounder absolutely key in the early game to prevent the push from player. The double Panzer III, Panzer 35 going down to that 6-pounder. And it almost killed the Panzerjäger as well. So that could have been even more devastating for player. The AT ambush was just on point. Tetrarch CS killing a couple of infantry squads there. This one taking out the IG, the Pak 38 and a Grenadier. This is the sort of kill list you want to see for a Tetrarch CS. Well used there for sure. They aren't exactly the most expensive tanks, so when they do find kills onto like multiple support weapons, it's very, very good. Now the Cromwell 6 in the mid, it only actually killed 2 Ersatztruppen, but the amount that was providing presence in the center was massive. Like there was no way for player to really push across with infantry unless he found a way to deal with the Cromwell 6, which he just didn't throughout the game. The naval battery did manage to find the kill onto the Pak 40. I think it also killed the 88, right? But we don't see that listed there. 17 pounder killing 2 Martyrs in the end, and we see the M1 that was brought in late on, taking out the IG and an 81mm mortar. This air landing finding the mobile Vulcan kill there, and the Oxen Bucks, they killed the Panzerschreck that almost killed the 17 pounder. So yeah, I mean, just in general, you can see these kills aren't like super overwhelming from Włochaty, but certainly the kills that he needed were mostly in the early game, with the Tetrarch taking out the IGs and so on, and then the 6 pounder taking out all of this armor that would have otherwise caused a lot of pressure. In terms of losses, well, Panzer IIIs did do well early on. This one taking out the Command Tetrarch was really nice, and the Tetrarch CS. It was a shame that they couldn't continue to be good after the 6 pounder took them out, but this Panzerjäger was saved, and it did do work killing off the Airborne Paras and the Flamethrower there, and also a Tetrarch CS. 81mm mortar microed quite well to help pin down enemy infantry, and also provide the smoke to prevent that Panzerjäger from dying. Really nice Mi-109 G0 that took out a Typhoon, a Tempest, it strafed death, the Sniper, and the Airborne Flamethrower. Really, really good kill list there for the Mi-109 G0. Panzer 35s did their job pinning and killing the airborne units as the Ersatztruppen continued to push forward. Same deal with the IGs. Really like the use of the Panzer 35 IG combination from player to try and press back against the airborne infantry. But the Staghound was a really good reply from Włochaty, and certainly slowed down a lot of what a player needed to do, and therefore he had to wait for the Martyrs to come in, and all the while Włochaty was pushing a +1, and that's what really built up the lead. And you can see as soon as the Staghound or the Martyrs came in, well, the Staghounds died. These 3 Staghounds on the bottom sides were taken care of. Maybe a little bit later than planned, but overall still a very successful Martyr there with the 17 pounder kill as well, due to that being pushed down to 1 health. Pak 40 on the top side took out the Staghound and Tetrarch CS as they tried to push up, so relatively decent Pak 40. Ended up getting smashed to death by that off map. But then into the late game, there just wasn't really enough kills going on in favour of player for him to be able to push back and secure the victory. So really, really well played from both players, and this was an epic final to what has otherwise been a very up and down tournament with some lackluster games as well as some relatively decent games, and this one just tops it all off with a lovely, lovely final here. So congratulations to Włochaty for winning the tournament, and commiserations to player in this case. Really, really good game. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed the coverage of the second community patch tournament. I'll make sure to cover any other tournaments in the future, of course, but we're likely going to be going on to still Division 2 tournaments, I'm sure, at some point. So, well, there we go. That's all I have for you. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.